Hey, this is Seeing Detail. I'm Chris. This is my dog, and this is MMA For You. I'm going to be doing my MMA For You Q A for December 2013. I'd like to give some shout-outs here. Shout-out to Florentino Ariza, Mark William, Rick 1982, Justin Brunson, Frederick Amador, Gonzaga Fragrance 206, Mysterious Alien, Mikey G 789, Cyberplex, Juan Pablo Picasso, Philm 99, 69 Gangster 69, Coco Tiger 77, Burnman 23, Cezano 85, Rusty Sachs, Be Good 20,000, Kevin Barber, Vegeta DTX, 792 B&Z, Rainbow Tele, Hydrobud 98, and Jim Jones. Okay, so I got 3 questions here. The first and the third question, 2 questions kind of lead into each other. So Mark William asked, what do you think of GSP retiring? Do you think GSP will be back? And Dio98 actually asked, GSP and Anderson Silva have left the UFC within the same month. What happens now? It's kind of like the same thing. Well, this is pretty interesting because GSP was the top draw for the UFC. By default now, it's what John Jones, Ronda Rousey. You can possibly build up Pettis and or Chris Weidman to be like the next big stars. But otherwise, there is definitely a gap as far as GSP's retirement is concerned. I mean, you do get the winner of Robbie Lawler versus Johnny Hendricks being the new welterweight champion. His fights aren't, from a technical standpoint, are great. I don't think he beat Johnny Hendricks. I thought Johnny Hendricks won 3 rounds. At the same time, though, GSP, if he's like officially done, he will have retired on top. Bad judge's decision or not. It's officially a win on his record. Do I think he'll be back? I'm gonna be honest. I just don't see any indication that he'll be back. I don't know if he needs money. I don't think he does. He does seem mentally drained from fighting. He seems like a smart enough guy that he could possibly go into other careers pretty well. He can stick with mixed martial arts in some capacity if he really wants to. He can go into doing some acting roles, especially if there's like some sort of martial arts that are needed. So I think he can get into other ventures too. That's the other thing about him. I think the UFC will probably throw a lot of money at him, and to get him back to fight the winner of like Hendricks versus Lawler or something like that. I'm a bit skeptical though. To be perfectly honest with you, it's not outside the realm of possibility for GSP to come back, but otherwise, I would actually lean more towards him not coming back, to be perfectly honest. So GSP and Anderson have left the UFC pretty much within the same month. I mean, we don't know if Anderson's going to retire or anything, but he's 38, or turning 39, I think, pretty soon, I think. And he just had a really bad leg injury. Broke his leg. It's definitely like a career-ending injury. What happens now? Well, Weidman becomes champion. He fights guys like Vitor. I think the big question is, like, who becomes the big draws? Are they even going to have, like, big pay-per-view drawing fighters? And yeah, are they gonna have like these like larger than life invincible aura type guys like GSP and Anderson have? Weidman could be a pretty dominant champion. I think the biggest problem he'd have is Lyoto Machida. Stylistically, some guys would give him some fits. That's the thing too. Even like a Luke Rockhold, quite honestly, isn't the best stylistic matchup for Chris Weidman. I mean, Chris Weidman's really improving. His striking's improved, but he's still not like the best. Like, if he went up against like Rockhold, Jacare, or someone like that, he's not gonna have like this tremendous striking advantage over a lot of his competition. Vitor, on paper, has better striking. It's generally the wrestling and the overall ground game that would help Weidman as well. Weidman is steadily improving, though. But, you know, you take Jacare down. Jacare is really good on the ground. I don't know if he can take Machida down that easily. Even a guy like Bisping or Rockhold would be tough to take down. He can probably get the takedown. Could he keep them down? Tough question. So, it begs the question if you're going to, you know, you had two dominant champions leave within the same month. Are you going to still have those dominant champions? Are the guys that are going to take over be dominant champions? Weidman, I can see it. I'd favor Weidman over pretty much every middleweight. Probably not Machida, though. But as far as welterweight goes, you have like Johnny Hendricks. I think he'll beat Robbie Lawler. And Hendricks, I mean, he has one-punch KO power and really strong wrestling. Once again, it's a case, though, of he's not the best striker. If he went up against, say, Carlos Condit for 5 rounds, I can see Condit taking rounds 3, 4, and 5. Where Hendricks would win rounds 1 and 2. I think a lot of the guys that seem like they're going to take over or be champions definitely aren't going to have that same type of dominance. You know, I can see a lot more competitive fights. Like, when GSP fought Condit, it was a competitive fight, but, you know, it was still GSP pretty dominant, you know. If I saw Hendricks versus Condit, you know, it can go either way, like, pretty easily. Hendricks versus even, like, Roy McDonald, kind of go either way. I can't see a guy like a Hendricks be a totally dominant champion. I'd favor him to just beat about every welterweight out there, but that's not to say I wouldn't favor him to necessarily dominate. This also raises the questions too of like building stars and building new stars and building pay-per-view draws. I mean, it's gonna be pretty tough. You know, Anderson took a long time to become like a pretty big name guy. It took a rivalry with Chael Sonnen to do that. GSP, you know, he had. You know, it's pretty much after he beat, like, Hughes, he became really big. It really depends, because you never know what wheels will be put into motion. Maybe they'll have some incredible fights, and Weidman has just some incredible rivalry with, I don't know, I'm just going to throw out, like, Machida or Luke Rockhold even, because they're closer to the same age, you know? Maybe that's going to happen, and that's going to elevate Chris Weidman a lot. Maybe a guy like Pettis won't be so injured so much. Tearing through competition, you know, he's a guy I can see becoming a pretty big star. He just needs to be more active. You know, maybe he definitely fills in a gap that, as far as like being a pay-per-view draw, that Anderson or GSP once were. The UFC definitely needs to build new stars. I mean, I guess it kind of starts here. You know, you got Hendricks now, you got Weidman, you got a lot of new guys, new young guys as champions. See if they're dominant or not. It'll be pretty interesting to see what happens in 2014 and beyond with the absence of GSP and Anderson not as champion. You know, even if Anderson comes back, it's not as champion. And to be honest, I don't think he beats Weidman, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay, next question at that. Florentino Ariza asks, Tough China will soon commence. Where do you see MMA in China with its rich tradition in martial arts? I saw that first episode of Tough China. One thing that was a really big standout thing with a lot of people was that they had like a yoga trainer that was a contestant, and he never had MMA fights, any MMA fights. So I think there's some sort of indication that it's still very new in China. And obviously with Tough China, and they're going to do Tough Canada versus Australia and whatnot. UFC's going to be in Singapore. They're going to have UFC back in the UK again. They're thinking of doing Ireland. I hear Philippines is also on their radar as well. I mean, it's a part of the UFC's global expansion effort, and that's going to be huge in 2014. They already got the UFC Fight Pass going on, and with the Fight Pass, you can watch these international cards. China. Everyone wants to do China. Pro wrestler. WWE wants to do China. Excuse me. They want to put their stamp in the country of China. Obviously, UFC did have some fights in Macau. Speaking of Macau, boxing also with Pacquiao fought Rios in Macau. It's definitely a market that every promoter, whether it's combat sports or sports entertainment, wants to reach. With that said, as far as the question goes, where do you see MMA in China with its rich tradition in martial arts? It's kind of twofold. Back not too long ago when they'd have MMA fights in China, you'd have like this top wushu guy versus some absolute scrub of an MMA fighter. And what would happen is that the wushu guy would win, and then it's like, our style of martial art is the best in the world, They're definitely getting away with that, though. They do have some legit promotions out there now. PXC, for example, Rough. Some of these are in around Asia, but I think they're starting to employ Chinese fighters. Rough is in China. I forgot. I think the UFC, besides Tiquan Zhang, I think they signed other Chinese nationals as well into the UFC. As far as MMA in China is concerned, it's I don't know. Like, there's always potential. I mean, there's so much population there, and yeah, they do have a rich history in martial arts. But this MMA martial arts it's a lot different. It's like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, more Muay Thai, more Western boxing, more wrestling and stuff like that. If they can. Seriously, if they just get the right training, I mean, they definitely have the population. I don't know. It's tough to say. It's a new market. It's very new. MMA is still relatively new to China, and it's still something that needs to gain acceptance in China. So, I mean, it's really tough to say. I mean, in the future, it can be commonplace. I know they have gyms in place. I forgot the names of some of the top gyms in China. And of course, there's a lot of Asian promotions around that area. 1FC, Rough, PXC, among others that do employ Chinese fighters as well. So, I mean, it's there already. There's a base. There's like a base of fighters there in China right now. Do I think it'll get really big in China? It's tough to say. I would need to see like how the training works in China. I remember watching like SFL in India and SFL challengers. And then whenever I see them fight, I'm like, man, they just don't have good training. I mean, these guys are really sloppy. You have a lot of MMA fighters that'll train at a wushu gym in like India. I don't know if that's the case in China. I would actually assume that's the case in China as well. But yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be any bigger. It could be its own niche in China. I don't know if it'll be like super popular or anything like that. They're definitely gonna try. I mean, the Ultimate Fighter China is there to get into this market. But yeah, it's just really tough to say, to be perfectly honest. Where do I see MMA in China? Despite having like a big martial arts background in the country, I think I can definitely see a niche audience for mixed martial arts. I don't know if we can see a huge audience. Hey, you never know though. Maybe maybe you're just going to have some Chinese fighter that's just going to blow everyone away, and a lot of people start following him. You know, it's like like Yao Ming and basketball or something like that, or you just have that one guy and he just it makes it really popular in China. So I mean, it could happen. You don't really know. It's just so hard to foresee what the global expansion is gonna create going into these new markets that are relatively new to MMA. So I know it's a bit wishy-washy of an answer. Like, I'm kind of giving an I don't know answer, but that's the truth. I really don't know what's gonna happen because, like I said, maybe some awesome Chinese guy comes into the UFC, becomes a top 10, maybe even wins a title. And all of a sudden, MMA in China is huge. You don't know. So I guess that actually, where I see MMA in China, I guess that actually points to the process of it. Like, what's it gonna take for it to be popular? Yeah, you definitely need wheels in motion. Ultimate Fighter China will really help. Correct training. High-level training will really help. Exposure. I think they have TV deals in China. Well, they have to if they're going to have Ultimate Fighter China. Exposure. More MMA gyms. Like I said, I know in other countries like India, for example, you have MMA fighters, but they don't train in an MMA gym. They train in a wushu gym, or some wushu dojo, And then you see them fight, they're not that great at MMA. They just don't have that type of training, that facility, the resources, the partners, and whatnot. So, I mean, it's just really tough to say because so many wheels have to come into motion. I can see Chinese fighters being UFC caliber. But I can say that about just about any country. You know what I mean? We globally, you have so many top fighters for various different countries that represent various countries. You can see Chinese fighters being solid MMA fighters that are UFC quality. So, but yeah, where do I see it? Is it going to be some great thing? I don't know. Could I see it being some great thing? Right, again, the wheels have to be in motion for it to be some like big popular thing in China. It's not like Brazil, for example, where they just have a built-in, they have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu already, a big contingent of guys do Muay Thai as well. So, I mean, it's just, there's such a natural progression for MMA in, like, say, Brazil, for example. And it's a market they hit constantly throughout the year. We'll see with China pretty much. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my MMA For You Q&A for December 2013, and it's the final one of the year. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA For You. Thank you guys very much.